It is Friday here on Outpost Unknown, and you know what that means, everybody. It's another episode of Exhuming the X-Files. My name is Matthew, joined once again by Jeremy.
Hey, everybody.
Tonight we are finishing off a two-parter with the episode 731, the continuation from last week's Nisei. We are in the midst of a mini alien arc. This episode, otherwise known as Mulder Trapped on a Train. Directed by Rob Bowman, written by Frank Spotnitz. How excited were you going into this episode, Jeremy?
I needed to know where we were going. We haven't seen a stunt from Mulder yet. He jumps onto a moving train, he loses his phone, but he's going after an actual alien, and he's, like a train car away from what he believes is a living, breathing alien entity. We got to know what happens.
Yeah, for sure. I was excited. We both liked the last episode quite a bit. We'll see if it sticks the landing here. So, tell us about this prologue.
Starts with a bunch of deuce and halves. A bunch of military folk are driving down a dirt road into a disease research facility that's been rusted out and chained up.
Find out it's like a leper colony originally or something like that.
But it doesn't look like that in the beginning. It looks like they're rounding up. Or you remember the Alien episode where there was a bunch of filing cabinets in that cave, and there was a bunch of aliens that just ran by Scully, and then a UFO shows up and apparently picks them all up.
Yeah.
This felt reminiscent of that, only they were wearing clothes. Like there was one dude, he was peeking out from some basement there, but the military shows up to this derelict warehouse. They start rounding up all these things that look like human alien hybrids because they all have the big heads, they all have the big eyes. They're just using very, very far away shots. So you can't.
Yeah.
Really,
this is shot in daylight too, so you can see all of it.
they get them onto trucks. They take them out to a ditch. They execute all of these people, and then they have this weird scene where the military peeks over they walk up and look over the edge at all the bodies, and then they turn around, kind of like victorious, and they kind of sling their weapons like a bunch of cowboys, like sauntering away from. It was weird.
It is weird. Now, let me ask you: you were in the military, and I know if you were ordered to go execute any weird alien human hybrids, you could never tell anybody, right? But how many people in this show? Let's assume for now, as we're viewers of the episode, we are assuming all these people are alien human hybrids. We may or may not find out that differently by the end of the episode. But how many people in the government, just your average military type people, have to know that there are aliens all over the place? Because there are so many episodes where there's, whether it's soldiers, commandos, whoever, they're always showing up to destroy, wipe evidence clean, of all of these weird alien stuff. Would that be a thing? Like, how many people? I guess I'm trying to figure out how to ask this question, but like, how many people would be too many people of your just average sort of soldier knowing about this kind of stuff, right? Like, they wouldn't send you, for example, just to, hey, Jeremy, I want you to go put a bullet in the back of this alien's head.
Yeah, no,
Throw
they're
it.
not called the Iowa National Guard to go execute a bunch of dudes. You have to go to the stories where you hear, or the real life stories, not just the X-Files stories, where people go out to Area 51 and they trespass, and they are approached by hostile military dressed folk that do not wear name tapes, that do not have rank insignia sewn on, like part of the military uniform. And believe they're very, very strict about the military uniform in that it has to be worn in a certain way in certain conditions always. Like you can't go outside without your cap on. You need to have your rank in the top center of your military BDU cap and in both collars. You have to have your name tape with or on one chest and what branch of service, whether it's Marine Corps, U.S. Army, whatever, on the other breast pocket. And so people are going out to uh, Area 51, and they when they trespass, they're being accosted by, I can't believe it's a civilian force, and I don't think it's private contractors like Blackwater either. But it is a military force that shows no rank, no no unit insignia. As far as we know, we can't identify who these people are, where they go home at night. So it's not just that. You hear about these particular like you listen to special forces guys. Every once in a while, you run into higher end dudes, spooks out in fucking Afghanistan, Iraq, where they're in to do something, but you don't know who they are, and you don't know what or who they answer to. And they have all of this free reign within the military. You can tell that they're very highly trained, that they're very, very, very good at what they do. And it's always seemed like, well, at least since the 70s, that this paramilitary force has existed. And so if you look at it that way, that these are who is responding, that you have these unaligned military personnel all over the UN or all over the US, like with what was the angel people, the fallen angel, no, the
Oh
UFO
yeah.
recovery.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
It's those people. It's that military force that's on American soil that gets dispatched to do all of these things all around the country. Hush hush. And that's what I believe of the show that they're trying to
Gotcha.
portray.
Okay. That makes more sense.
And yeah, okay, so they execute all these dudes, and then but there's this old crusty scabby guy that doesn't look like an alien watching from a tree line and kind of like feeling sad about it, and then we get the title screen.
Yeah. And the tagline's changed in this one. It's not the truth is out there. It's apology is policy. I don't know if you noticed that.
I did not.
Yeah. Different tagline. I thought the makeup on the leper guy looked pretty good.
But half of his face was covered up with a branch.
It still looked good.
Okay, the forehead did. The mouth was all fucked up. And like, hey, what do we do about that? We just have him hold a
We
branch.
see him later and he still looks good.
They reapplied the. Oh, come on, Matt.
It looked good. Leave a comment down below,
Yeah,
viewers.
yeah.
Tell me, did it look
They
good?
they sent him back to his trailer and just said, "Stay in makeup until we meet you again." Okay. Okay, so we get back to Mulder doing his own stunts. He falls on top of the train car, the phone scuttles away from him. Then we cut, or that's kind of intense. He's trying to get inside of the train. We cut to Scully. Scully pulls a piece on X, and he almost immediately disarms her.
Poor
Which,
Scully.
okay. And then, but he kind of tells her, it's like, don't test me like that again. I don't want to have to kill you, but if I do, or if I have to, I will. Kind of
Yeah.
vibe thing going on.
Because
And then tells her,
she doesn't believe him. Like she's like, "What's on the train? What's on the train?" He's like, "I don't know.
mm.
There are limits to my knowledge." I think that's what he says. There are limits to my knowledge.
But then he tells her that implant that you got has more of your answers than I will ever know.
Yeah.
So Mulder gets inside of the train. He goes to the back cart and he's locked out by a keypad or a little key card and a keypad entrance. So he sees the conductor guy or whatever the dude that, not the pop collar conductor, cool ass dude from the previous episode, but like that nerdy little guy that checks your ticket on the train.
Yeah.
And says, "Hey, I'm an FBI guy. You got a key to get in here, right?" He's like, no, they do this shit all the time. They just drop these carts off randomly. We don't know anything about them. We don't have access. And so he goes, he asks, but he's like, there's a doctor on the train that has something to do with it. And he mentions a name and it's like Asian, of some Asian persuasion. And he automatically thinks, okay, this must be the dude that has the card. So show me his car. Conductor takes him over to the car. The car is empty. Mulder breaks another law by immediately just going through all of the guy's shit. He picks up this book that has a bunch of Japanese writing in it. It says, "Why did I take French in high school?"
Yeah.
And then he pulls out his ankle piece and gives it to the conductor. I'm like, what the fuck just happened? He wants to scare, like, He
Well, I
wants
like
to.
what's funny about this because the conductor is like, well, what he's like, you ever used a gun? Point at him, and then he's like, there's no bullets in it, right? And he's just like, when the guy comes back, hold this gun on him and signaled me somehow or wait for me to come back. This poor guy, he has no idea. And it was like, what does he say? Does he say something like, well, what happens if you realize there's no bullets in here or something? And Mulder's just kind of like, good luck.
Voodoo, man. Come on.
Voodoo. Voodoo will
so,
protect you. Voodoo.
so she sends cuts back to Scully. She has somebody working on their chip, finds out that the chip is recording and broadcasting her thoughts and memories, which really freaks her out.
That is freaky.
But also finds out that the chip has a Japanese manufacturer, and that manufacturer's listing or delivery address for that particular chip is somewhere in West Virginia. Um, we cut back to the train. Younger Robert Stack kills the doctor in the shitter with piano wire by choking him to death.
Yeah.
Cuts back to Scully. This is a lot of cut back and forth between the two. Cuts back to Scully.
Yeah.
She's going to the delivery spot in West Virginia, and as soon as she pulls up, a bunch of dudes in jumpsuits just scurry away from her headlights like a bunch of cockroaches in the night. It was just really weird because she's not. They're not. They don't seem to be doing anything suspicious. She just pulls up in an alley and then rushing away. She goes in to this place and she finds that there's a bunch of lepers underneath a floorboard. And I wrote lepers, even though I did not know they were lepers, because they weren't wearing the alien hybrid stuff that the guys that got shot in the beginning of the episode did. They just looked like crusty, scabby people.
Crusty, scabby people, huh?
That's what they look. They look like you would touch them with your wiener, and then your wiener might fall off. Like they had problems.
Well, you know what was also really cool about the lepers? Their makeup looked fucking great.
Yeah, in this scene it did. They had somebody else that night. So they
False. You need to look at
um
that teaser again, buddy. You need to watch that leper shot through that branch. Fucking great makeup.
Mulder finds the doctor in the bathroom with the door wide open. He's garroted, like his neck is cut a little bit from the piano wire. And then this woman and a little kid just show up at the bathroom and start screaming. And Mulder's like, "Oh, he's I'm with the FBI and he's tired or something like that."
just go back to your seats.
Yeah, just find a different bathroom. This one's occupied, clearly, to calm them down. And then what happens? She gets butt.
This goes back to Scully, and Scully, the lepers take Scully to the mass grave
Oh
where the
yeah.
military people have been killing all the alien human hybrids, and there's that great shot, kind of like over Scully's shoulder, and like there's a low angle shot, and then it's over the shoulder, and you just see like dozens and dozens of what look like aliens wearing t-shirts dead in this giant hole. It looked
And then
cool.
it did. I really like that part. And then a military helicopter shows up, and the lepers who have been hiding underneath the floorboards just immediately run away. She gets basically arrested by the military, even though she's seen this body pit. Like they didn't just add to the body pit, which was weird.
Plot
Mul-
armor.
it cuts back to Mulder. He sees the alien hybrid. I don't know how he gets further into the car than what he did. Like, did he? Because the doctor wasn't alive to tell him the code.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember how he got in.
But he sees the alien in the cart through the window, and then suddenly, younger Robert Stack is choking him with the piano wire.
Yeah.
And then the conductor shows up and pulls that gun on him, because that's why the conductor needed the gun the whole time.
Yeah.
The situation was never serious enough to hand a civilian a weapon as an FBI agent, but
There's a
Where we
dude
were
running around choking people out with piano wire.
not at the not at the point where they're at the cart where they're in the doctor's cart, Matt.
Details, details.
In fact,
You're just talking details that are irrelevant.
you know, Mulder goes to the bathroom he suspects the doctor of taking a shit in. Matt.
Look, I think it's perfectly plausible for Mulder to hand this conductor an empty weapon to protect himself in case the killer
Uh-uh.
comes up on him.
So he gets the or Robert Stack gives himself up. Doesn't want to get shot. It cuts back to Scully. Ends up going to talk to this dude, this another mysterious government guy, about what is actually going on. What is going on with the train car? What's going on with her abduction, quote unquote? Like he's going to show her the truth. And then they cut back to Mulder. Mulder is saying, or he's like, "Where are we at?" Because he gets word that there's a bomb from Robert Stack.
Yeah.
He's got something in his or he no. Scully calls him and says if that bomb goes off, like that's a diseased person. That's not it, that's I'm at the leper colony. If this bomb goes off, it's gonna scatter that material and infect something. Didn't they say
Well,
something like
this is what I did not understand about this episode. So to back up a little bit, so Scully is talking to that gray-haired guy. Now that guy, I don't know what his official name is. I don't know if they've ever actually named him within the show, but he's one of the guys that's in all the scenes whenever Cigarette Smoking Man is at his little meetings with the people who are like the puppet masters behind everything. He's one of those dudes. So he's talking to Scully about like, look, Mulder thinks that there's aliens here. This is not actually aliens, and what's going on here is this Japanese doctor has been conducting experiments for, I guess, since World War II, trying to, create what we find out is create like an immunity for like all kinds of like biological viruses and biological warfare or some shit like that. It's weird. This episode goes all over the place in terms with what the reasons are for all of this going down. But he's the one that because Robert Stack tells Mulder immediately, "There's a bomb on here." Mulder doesn't believe him. He thinks the guy's lying about everything, and Mulder's like, "That is an alien. I looked through the little porthole. I saw the alien looking back at me and smiling. That's an alien. How do I fucking get in that room?" And then the guy's like, "You can't get in there." Blah blah. And then that's when the government dude talking to Scully is like, look, there's like hemorrhagic fever or something. Essentially, this thing is allegedly a human that's been experimented on and has basically some sort of like Ebola virus. And if this train car explodes, because it's going to stop in a populated area, if it explodes, then the Ebola is essentially going to go all over the place and infect tons of people. My question is, I'm like, wouldn't the explosion destroy the Ebola because it's blowing up the person who has it? So how could it suddenly survive an explosion and infect everybody? Like that's what I
by
was confused about.
by by vaporizing the dude that has it?
But it's
It
inside of
wasn't
a
true.
steel. It's inside of a steel.
Listen, Matt.
Details. Voodoo.
No, they weren't telling Scully the truth. They were telling Scully something plot. They never showed Scully anything outside of she'd seen lepers. She saw the bodies in the ditches in the dark, and she saw a completely sterilized empty train car. And she came to the conclusion that it was just what this guy was saying to him. But that wasn't the truth. That dude in the car was an alien hybrid.
Well, the later on, Robert Stack, when Mulder confronts him about that, because Mulder thinks it's a human alien hybrid, and that guy was like, "Well, then shouldn't someone have been here to save it by now?" Which is sort of throwing it back in Mulder's face. Now, I guess you could argue, well, maybe that's why X shows up. we'll get there. But I don't know. I mean, it certainly looks like a human alien hybrid, but I don't know if they necessarily state or make us, give us anything solid to make us think that that's what is actually in there. We do know it's one of these crazy Unit 731 Japanese people who are experimenting on human beings, but I don't know. I don't think there's enough in this episode to tell us one way or the other.
I think there was just too much bullshit being fed to Scully, and in turn being fed to Mulder through the phone, because they call him, or she calls him, and she's like, "Okay, this, and this. If this train explodes, so like 140,000 or so people are expected to be infected." He finds out from the conductor, like, "Where are we?" And he says, "We're in Iowa." And he says, "All right, drop the cart off here." And I wrote in my notes, like, what did I put? Mulder decides that mountainous Iowa is a great place to unhook their train car so that it just kills Iowans. I'm okay with this. Scully's like driving in her car. She's in West Virginia. She's like
Yeah,
35 fucking hours away by car. And she's just hauling ass and talking to Mulder on the phone while he's talking to Robert Stack.
yeah. Yeah, I
Um,
mean, she's speeding. She's breaking the law again. Another one of our agents breaking the law. But this is where you sort of get that cool thing, because when Scully's explained to, she's like, "I'm in a train car, exactly like what it was when I was sort of experimented on." So the writers are trying to make us think now that Scully wasn't actually abducted by aliens. She was abducted by this crazy Japanese World War II human experimenting guy to create an immunity for biological warfare that he could then bring back to Japan so that Japan can have the head start, like their Japanese warriors will be immune to all of this stuff. I don't understand why he was doing all this stuff in the United States on trains. I mean, why wasn't he just kidnapping Japanese people and experimenting on them? I don't know, but
because
it's
just
very
like the
weird.
Nazis, he was brought here by the government in order to use his skills that he learned while committing atrocities against the Chinese people for the
I
U.S.
guess,
government's ends.
but the dude made it sound like that America wanted his research, but he didn't want to give it to him. That's why he rigged the entire thing to blow up. So because that guy's like, if he can't have this research, nobody was going to have it. So he's going to blow it up. So it's not like he was just been like, "Oh, I figured it out, America. Here you go. Here's all my research." Like, he didn't want to give it to us. I thought they mentioned in there that he was trying to escape America and get back to Japan.
I mean, you're again you're coloring Steve Bannon's entire testimony to Scully as truth. If you view it for what it is, it's all bullshit. They're trying to do is clean this whole thing up. That's it.
Okay.
And trying to take, like, the guy in the dude that died in the cart was basically the only successful experiment that Japanese guy had, as far as the what his unfettered work into human alien hybrids. That was as close to success that he got. And the US government, or whoever was involved on the back end with the cigarette smoking man, was working to exterminate everything else, every piece of evidence that's involved in it, every failure that he had. Like the lepers, those guys were just there because, I don't know.
Well, they mentioned that it was initially like a leper colony, and they were just kind of like hanging around
And
while
then,
all
but
this weird
then he
shit was
said
going on.
all these other people started showing up with
Yeah,
leper like symptoms, but they were kept separate and they did other things to them. I remember that leper saying that to Scully.
yeah. I've also never seen a leper their heads turn into like an alien head.
It's because they
So
weren't lepers. they let Those guys that got executed in the ditch were all alien human hybrids that were being experimented on by the
So
same guy that was working on the leopards.
so you're telling me our highly intelligent protagonist Scully was literally looking into a hole of hundreds of alien human hybrids and not one will never go back to get evidence to prove any of it. She was standing in front of all the evidence right there and was too
She looked
dumb
at
to realize it.
we saw the same thing in the ditch. None of those guys had scabs. Even
That's what I'm
holding a
saying.
branch up in front of their faces, they didn't have scabs.
Right, but so what I'm saying is Scully, this trained great agent, is looking at non-scabby lepers, but thinks that they're still lepers. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, because
That's horrible writing.
that's more plausible to Scully's character than the human alien hybrid thing.
Okay.
And also knowing what we know about her abduction and what happens going forward, I believe, yes, she was abducted by these Japanese guys, which is why she recognized that doctor from her brain hallucinations. Why all those other ladies in the 90s Mom Jean book club recognized her too, because they were all part of this particular thing.
Okay.
They weren't scraping Scully's eggs for fucking more lepers, man. They
Well,
really
yeah.
weren't.
Well, why did Scully in the '90s Mom Jean book club not turn into like weird alien-headed hybrid things?
It's their kids. You remember she was all pregnant and they had like a scope on her belly button. They were doing stuff, and then later, spoilers, audience, we find out that they were harvesting her babies, like in like season 5 or season 6 or something. You don't
Okay.
remember this?
I don't remember that. No.
Oh,
She
okay.
spoiled everything for me. That's
I'm
okay. Let's
I'm sorry, man.
we'll figure it out. I don't know. I still have my doubts here, but I'm willing
Leave a
to.
note next to this episode. We're
I'm
coming
willing to.
back to this
Okay.
conversation.
Okay. Tabling this. So there's a bomb on the train, Jeremy. There's a bomb on the train.
Or is there not a bomb on the train? Robert Stack reveals that there is, in fact, something that very much looks like a bomb on the train, and there's like so many hours left. They drop it off in Iowa. They're hanging out. He finds out from Robert Stack that the entrance code is one thing, but the exit code has to be something completely different. And if he punches in the wrong thing, the bomb's going to go off. What's it? Scully goes back to Mulder. Like, Scully was apparently driving from West Virginia, not to Iowa, but instead to Mulder's apartment in DC, which I believe is still pretty far ways away from West Virginia.
Yeah.
And she's trying to figure out what to do, and then she tries to summon X by putting the little X on the window and turning on the light. She starts reviewing the video again, the 29.95. They got a lot of longevity out of that video, by the way.
Yeah.
You watch it like 4 different times in these 2 episodes.
We forgot to mention on the last episode the reason why Mulder thinks it's real from the very beginning. Because when they're making the joke about the alien autopsy, is Mulder's like the alien autopsy video was fake because it showed way too much. And he's like, this is legitimate because you barely even see anything at all. And that's why he believes it. But in that train car, like when it gets down to like 30 minutes or something, Mulder looks at Robert Stack and is like, no one's coming, are they? Because Mulder thinks that the government's going to come and save this alien human hybrid that's in there, and nobody's coming.
That's not true. Because
Well, X shows up with like literally 55 seconds left. You cannot tell me that the government knew that there was the one alien human hybrid success that this person got. They sent one man, X, to get there in the nick of time, take this thing out and try to save it. Come on. They would send an entire fucking team.
They didn't send X to they sent Robert Stack to kill the fucking thing. But he failed, so their backup plan, assuming that he didn't fail, was X, who showed up, saved Mulder, and just let the fucking bomb go off. Which the bomb wasn't there to spread a disease or leprosy to a bunch of people. That bomb was only big enough to incinerate all of the evidence inside of that cart. Another dead giveaway that those people were lying.
I don't know, man.
It
I'm not
was
on board yet.
You saw the explosion. X was like 20 feet away with Mulder over his shoulder. He didn't even get like knocked over by the explosion. It was
Yeah.
just kind of fire. It was a firebomb to destroy the evidence.
Right, right. I guess it all comes down to who you believe, right? So the dude who's with the NSA, with Robert Stack, because he's like, I'm with the NSA. Like,
Yeah.
the bomb is here. Like, this is all what's going on. It's coming down to like, who are you believing? Are you believing the person talking to Scully? Are you believing the guy who is there, who's been garroting all of these, Japanese nationals who are doing all this stuff? I mean, the
They're
the
not
tension,
opposing forces.
the
Steve Bannon is with Robert Stack. They're on the same side.
but we never see that. That's the thing. What they never show that direct connection between the two of them. You would agree with that at the very least, right?
Well, yeah, they never show what's going on behind the scenes outside of
Exactly.
vague gesturings that the cigarette smoking man is near.
Yeah. Who does show up in this in the very last shot?
And what is he doing?
He's looking at the briefcase. Like he's
And
having the people translate or whatever the Japanese stuff.
but is he having just the people, or is he having one of those or Japanese yakuza guys do it?
Uh by the tone of your voice, I would imagine a Japanese Yakuza guy is doing
Who's
it
you
who
know
knows how to speak Spanish Japanese. So
Matt?
I don't know, man. This we got two completely different takes from this episode.
It's because you trust Steve Bannon, and that's why we're in this fucking mess in this country, Matt.
Fair, fair.
All right,
Okay.
so we're skipping over. Well, we're skipping over two different things. Earlier, when Robert Stack reveals that he's an NSA agent, there's a great line where Mulder just comes back and says, "Since when do they issue NSA guys piano wire?"
Yeah.
And then right after the bomb goes off, there's a scene where Mulder and Scully are they in his office? They're going through the briefcase. They find that
Yeah.
everything is fake. That all like the journal that he was looking at, it wasn't the same one that he'd seen before. And so we get what you had mentioned was the title screen. That apology is policy, but I can't exactly remember why.
Apology is policy. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I'm not exactly sure what the overall message of this, because no one's really apologizing for anything in this, right?
No,
Do we get any apologies at all for anything?
no.
Yeah, I don't know.
This is just some shit like Chris Carter wrote 18 months ago on a sticky note. And he's like, man, I got to get this into an
Yeah,
episode.
that's cool, man. That's deep.
Yeah.
Apology is policy. Yeah, so I mean, you're over. Okay, so we finished the two-part episode. Number one, I'll ask you: did it stick the landing, and what were your thoughts on it?
I really liked it. I thought it jumps a lot. There's less substance than there was in the first of the two episodes
Yeah,
because it's more action scene. There's a bomb on the line. People are driving fast. Cut to Scully. Cut to Mulder. Cut to Scully. Cut to Mulder. So there was a lot of hype with it. I liked it. I thought it was very, very good for a two-parter episode. Was it the best two-parter Alien episode yet? No, but memorable. It was very good all the way through.
yeah, I agree with you. I liked both of these episodes. I thought that this one did stick the landing. I thought bringing in like the bomb is going to go off, and Mulder's again trapped in a train car, sort of thing, was cool. And I just kind of clearly I have to rewatch this episode again because I saw it in a completely different way than you. But I kind of just liked. I guess I'm just going to say it. I guess I just trusted the bad guys.
You did, Matt.
That just must be my bad. I trusted the bad guys. Maybe the acting was so good that I was just like, well, I was taken in by it. But um, yeah, I guess if I think about the hemorrhagic fever, if I really think about it, even what I just said, I was like, I don't understand why that thing blowing up would cause Ebola essentially to infect everybody, especially when you're incinerating it. Usually you burn bodies when you're trying to get rid of some sort of disease. And I felt like it didn't make sense, but now when you point out, yeah, it doesn't make sense, and Scully's just a
Well,
fucking idiot.
but
Uh,
to contextualize it a little bit, you remember the movie The Rock with
yeah,
Sean Connery and Nick
Nicolas
Cage?
Cage, yeah.
They were going to launch those missiles over a Super Bowl in order to distribute a gas with an explosive. That's kind of the angle that I thought, they're going to make that train blow up so much with its genetic material that it blows that over a populace of people, and there's going to be so many people infected because of it. And that was never ever in the cards. That explosion again was to terminate what was in the card.
So you're telling me that they wanted the one successful alien human hybrid experiment, that they wanted it dead. Like they didn't want to keep it to try to use it for something or experiment on it more. Like what was the overriding, like I understand the failures that they're trying to cover up all the people who didn't quite become, the gold standard or whatever. But why would the government want to destroy the success story? I
If
guess
they,
that's where I'm not understanding.
I don't think that the government planted the bomb in the train. I think that they were somehow made aware that the doctor did it. I'm still not
Yeah.
exactly sure why the doctor chose to flee with this thing.
Well, that's what I'm saying, because I could have swore there was a line in this where the guy's saying like he's trying to get back to Japan with this
Right.
thing.
Right, but you're listening to the guys that choked his ass to death with a piece of piano wire. It never came from the Yakuza guys at all. Like what
Yeah,
their
I guess that's
motivations
true.
do, what they're like, okay, you can take the word of the guys that fucking murdered him or
Well, I'm just trying to figure out and maybe this is just a failure with the writing of this episode, where I'm just trying to figure out what is the government's incentive to destroy a success. Like ostensibly, if like what you're saying, the U.S. government has been funding this guy for years, experimenting on all these people, he finally succeeds. But they're like, was the NSA guy there to take the thing away,
maybe.
or was
I
he
mean,
just there to murder it?
either there I would say both. Either there to take it away successfully, and if he could not, terminate the project.
I feel like they would just send more than one dude.
It was Robert Stack with a piece of piano wire. I mean, and X. What else do you need?
Clearly more dudes.
He's Steve Bannon bumbling through there. Maybe the guys they sent to the boat earlier that missed the dude jumping into the ocean 5 feet away. Maybe they need those guys,
Well,
man.
I don't know, man. They have like an unlimited supply of commandos that they could have just, you know, raided that fucking thing. Who knows?
They would
Okay.
have run right by the alien. They would have run like all Mulder would need to do is like hide under a desk or something, and they would have ran. Like that's just how they go.
All right.
Stormtroopers, man.
All right. Well, we both liked this episode quite a bit, even though we had different takes on it. So let me get into some fun facts about this one. The train car is number 82517. 8 plus 2 equals 10. 5 plus 1 plus 7 equals 13. 1013 is a hidden number throughout the series, in which is placed in various things because that is Chris Carter's birthday. So he hid his birthday in all the numbers of the various things in this show, apparently. Spotnitz also noted that this episode offered the writers the opportunity to, quote, set the counter back, unquote, to the series premiere, allowing the character of Scully to still maintain a skeptical standpoint after the events of Paperclip, an earlier third season episode in which the character witnesses a group of aliens. And I think that is kind of an interesting thing because we were talking about that, or you were, when you're saying, remember they were in the tunnels and the aliens were running through, where you would think that Scully would believe in aliens at this point, but she still kind of doesn't. Stephen Williams and Duchovny separately recorded the scene in which Williams carries Duchovny from the car before it explodes against a blue screen. The results of this were flipped horizontally to aid the scene's composition and superimposed over the explosion. 25 masked actors, mostly children, laid over prop bodies for the scene with the mass grave. The producers built train car interiors for the quarantine car where the patient was being kept and the sleeper cars, and floated the train sets on inner tubes to create the feeling of movement. 7 different cameras were used by director Rob Bowman when filming the train car explosion. 45 gallons of gasoline and 120 black powder bombs were used for the effect. The car used had been obtained cheaply from Vancouver based BC Rail and had been considered scrap due to being bent. After the explosion was recorded, a bell from the train was recovered some distance from the site by the physical effects supervisor Dave Gauthier, who had it polished and engraved with a message for Bowman. Bowman, who felt that this finished episode was, quote, really like a movie, unquote, has stated that his cut of this episode impressed series creator Chris Carter enough for Carter to offer Bowman the job of directing the series' film adaptation. And we'll see that when we get to Fight the Future, which was the first X-Files movie. I think that's a few seasons down the line. So there you go. Any final thoughts on this two-part arc, Jeremy?
Bookmark the episode, Matt, because we're coming back to this conversation.
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about myself right now. I believe in the bad guys, but we're going to see. I'm going to hold out hope that a few seasons down the line, I'm going to be like, you see, it was Ebola. We'll see. We'll see. So, folks, leave a comment.
Need to be right will prevail.
Leave a comment down below, people. What do you think? Do you believe the bad guys? Do you believe the good guys? Let us know what you thought. Hit that like and subscribe. Stay tuned next Friday. We are going to be talking about Revelations. We're going away from aliens, and now we're going to go into some religious stuff. So we will see you then. Goodbye, everybody.